I'd been living in that house on Maple Street for 43 years. Every corner held a memory. The kitchen where I taught Derek to make pancakes when he was 7. The living room where my husband Charles and I used to dance to old Patsy Cline records on Saturday nights. The front porch where I'd sit with my coffee every morning, watching the neighbourhood wake up. But none of that mattered to Derek anymore. Not when he thought he was a millionaire. The morning it happened, I was making breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast and bacon, the same breakfast I'd made him every Sunday since he moved back in after losing his job at the auto parts store. That was 6 years ago. He was 28 then, promising it would only be temporary. Just until I get back on my feet, Mama, he'd said. I believed him because that's what mothers do. We believe our children, even when all the evidence tells us we shouldn't. I heard his truck pull into the driveway around 9:30. He'd been out all night again, probably at Travis's place, playing poker and drinking cheap beer. The front door slammed so hard the picture frames on the hallway wall rattled. I turned from the stove, spatula in hand, ready to ask if he wanted breakfast, but the look on his face stopped me cold. His eyes were wild, manic. He was holding something in his fist, a crumpled piece of paper. I checked it 3 times, he said, his voice shaking. 3 times, Mama. The numbers match. Every single one. I didn't understand what he was talking about. Derek, what? The lottery ticket? He thrust the paper toward me. The one that was in the kitchen drawer in that old recipe box. I found it last week when I was looking for cigarette money. I didn't think anything of it until I saw the numbers on the news this morning. Mama, we're rich. We won $38 million. My heart stopped. I knew exactly which ticket he was talking about. It was Charles's ticket from April 1997. He bought it on a whim at the Gas and Go on Highway 52 the day before he had his heart attack. I found it in his wallet at the hospital and kept it all these years, tucked in the recipe box with his handwritten notes for his famous chili. It wasn't worth anything, just a memory of him, of his silly dream that we'd hit it big and buy a beach house in Myrtle Beach. Derek, that ticket is. I already called the lottery office, he interrupted, pacing now, running his hands through his greasy hair. They said I need to bring it in with ID. This is it, Mama. This is our way out. No more struggling, no more scraping by. Our way out. As if he'd been the one scraping by. As if he'd been the one working 50-hour weeks at the diner until my knees swelled so bad I could barely walk. As if he'd been the one eating ramen noodles for dinner so he could afford his truck payment. I opened my mouth to tell him the truth, but something held me back. Maybe it was the look in his eyes, that desperate, hungry look I'd seen so many times before. The same look he had when he asked me to co-sign for the truck he couldn't afford. The same look when he borrowed $300 from my purse and never paid it back. Or maybe it was something else. Maybe I wanted to see how far he'd take this fantasy before reality came crashing down. Derek, we need to talk about this, I started, but he cut me off again. There's nothing to talk about. His expression changed then, hardened. This ticket was in your box, but it's mine now. I found it, I checked it, that makes it mine. It was your father's. Dad's dead, he shouted. The words echoed through the kitchen. He's been dead for 26 years, Mama. This ticket is mine, and I'm cashing it in today. I stood there holding that spatula, watching my son transform into someone I didn't recognize. Or maybe I did recognize him. Maybe I'd just been refusing to see it for too long. And you know what? He continued, his voice dropping to something cold and cruel. I'm done with this, done with you hovering over me, done with your disappointed looks, done with living in this dump. This is my house, I said quietly. He laughed, actually laughed, not for long. With $38 million, I can buy 10 houses like this. I can buy a mansion. I can finally live the life I deserve, instead of being stuck here taking care of you, taking care of me. I almost laughed myself. Derek hadn't taken care of anything except his own wants for 6 years, but I didn't say that. I just stood there feeling something crack inside my chest. Pack your things, he said. I want you out by tonight. Derek, I said pack your things and get out. His face was red now, spittle flying from his lips. This is going to be my house, my life. I don't need you anymore. I never needed you. You've just been in the way. The eggs were burning. I could smell them, hear them sizzling in the pan behind me. But I couldn't move. I just stared at my son, my only child, the boy I'd rocked to sleep every night until he was 5, the teenager I'd defended when he got suspended from school, the man I'd supported even when everyone told me I was making a mistake. Get out, he said again, quieter this time, but somehow worse. Get out of my house. I turned off the stove, set down the spatula, walked past him without a word and went to my bedroom. My hands were steady as I pulled my old suitcase from the closet, the same one I'd used for my honeymoon to the Smoky Mountains in 1968. I packed carefully 3 dresses, underwear, my Bible, the photo album with pictures of Charles, my reading glasses, the quilt my mother made me when I was 16. Derek didn't follow me. I could hear him in the kitchen, on the phone with someone, laughing, actually laughing. Yeah, man, I'm rich, 38 million. I'm buying a Corvette tomorrow, maybe 2. 15 minutes later, I walked out the front door with my suitcase and my purse. Derek was sitting on the couch now, the lottery ticket on the coffee table in front of him, staring at it like it was the Holy Grail. He didn't even look up when I left. I walked 4 blocks to the Sunset Motel on Highway 52. It was a rundown place where truckers stopped for the night, with peeling yellow paint and a flickering neon sign. The woman at the desk, her name tag said Crystal, looked at me with tired eyes and asked no questions when I paid cash for a week. Room 12 smelt like cigarettes and pine sol. The bedspread was an ugly brown pattern that had probably been installed in 1985. The TV was bolted to the dresser and the bathroom faucet dripped constantly, but it was quiet and it was mine. I sat on the edge of the bed and let myself feel it, not anger. Anger wasn't in my nature, but grief, deep aching grief for the son I'd lost long before he kicked me out. Derek had been slipping away for years and I'd been holding on so tight I'd failed to notice he was already gone. That night I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about Charles, about what he would say if he were here. He'd always been tougher on Derek than I was. You're coddling that boy, he used to tell me. He needs to learn to stand on his own 2 feet. But after Charles died, there was no one to balance me out. No one to tell me when I was giving too much. The next morning I counted my money. $847 in my savings account. That was it. My Social Security check wouldn't come for another 2 weeks. The motel was $55 a night. I did the math. I had enough for 13 days, maybe 14 if I didn't eat much. I thought about calling my sister Patricia in Raleigh, but pride stopped me. Patricia had never liked Derek, had warned me years ago that I was enabling him. I couldn't bear to hear "I told you so," even if she'd be kind enough not to say it. Instead, I put on my best dress, a navy blue one I'd worn to church for the past decade, and walked to the First Baptist Church on 3rd Street. It was Tuesday, so I knew the building would be mostly empty, except for Pastor Jonathan and maybe a few volunteers. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Comfort, maybe, or just a familiar place where I still felt like I belonged. The church was cool and quiet. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting coloured shadows across the wooden pews. I sat in the back, in the same spot I'd sat every Sunday for 40 years, and let myself cry. Not loud, dramatic sobs, just quiet tears that ran down my face and dripped onto my folded hands. Margaret, I looked up. Melissa was standing in the aisle, holding a stack of hymnals. We'd been friends since 1982, when our sons were in the same kindergarten class. Her son Kevin had gone on to become a physical therapist in Charleston. My son Derek had gone on to kick me out of my own home. Melissa, I managed, wiping my face. She set down the hymnals and slid into the pew beside me. What happened? I haven't seen you at church in weeks, and now, Margaret, are you okay? And just like that, it all poured out. The lottery ticket, Derek's cruelty, the motel, everything. Melissa listened without interrupting, her hand on mine. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "That ticket is from 1997, isn't it?" Charles's ticket. "How did you showed it to me once, years ago. Said it was your good luck charm, even though it never won anything." I nodded. "So Derek thinks he's won millions, but the ticket is worthless." "Yes, and you didn't tell him." I looked down at my hands. "I tried, he wouldn't listen. And then, I don't know, maybe I wanted him to figure it out himself. Maybe I'm tired of protecting him from his own mistakes." Melissa squeezed my hand. "You're not staying at that motel," she said firmly. "You're coming home with me. I have a guest room, and I've been meaning to hire help for my cleaning business. You remember Amanda, right? She quit last month to have her baby. I need someone I can trust. Melissa, I can't. You can, and you will. I'm not asking, Margaret, I'm telling you. For the first time in days, I felt something like hope. Melissa's house was a small ranch-style home in a quiet neighbourhood on the east side of town. The guest room was bright and clean, with yellow curtains and a quilt on the bed. "Make yourself at home," she said. "We'll figure out the work schedule tomorrow." That night I lay in a real bed with clean sheets and a soft pillow, and I slept better than I had in years. The next morning, Melissa and I went to the grocery store. That's where everything started to shift. We were in the produce section, picking out tomatoes, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Well, if it isn't Derek Caldwell's mama. I turned. It was Brandy Morrison, a woman who lived 3 houses down from me on Maple Street. She had a reputation for gossip and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Hello, Brandy," I said quietly. "I heard Derek won the lottery," she said loudly, making sure everyone nearby could hear. $38 million, and I heard he's kicking you out." "That true?" Melissa stepped forward. "That's none of your business, Brandy." But Brandy ignored her, looking at me with fake sympathy. "Must be hard seeing your son get rich and not wanting to share. But I guess that's what happens when you spoil a child. They forget where they came from." I felt Melissa tense beside me, ready to defend me, but I put a hand on her arm. "Derek is handling his business," I said calmly, "and I'm handling mine." Brandy smirked. "Well, good luck with that. I'm sure he'll remember you when he's living in his mansion." She walked away, and I stood there holding a tomato, feeling the weight of the whole town's judgment settling on my shoulders. "Don't listen to her," Melissa said. "Everyone knows she's a miserable gossip, but the damage was done." By the time we got back to Melissa's house, my phone had 3 voicemails. 2 from old church friends, asking if I was okay. 1 from Derek. I almost deleted it without listening, but something made me press play. "Mama," his voice was different, strained. "I need you to call me back. It's important. The lottery office, they're saying there's a problem with the ticket. Just call me." I stared at the phone. Part of me wanted to call him back, to explain, to fix it like I always did. But another part of me, the part that was just starting to wake up after years of sleeping, knew that this was his mess to clean up. I deleted the voicemail and didn't call back. 3 days passed before Derek showed up at Melissa's house. I was in the backyard, hanging laundry on the clothesline, something I'd always found peaceful, the simple rhythm of pinning wet sheets in the sunlight. Melissa had left for a cleaning job an hour earlier, and I was alone when I heard his truck rumble into the driveway, my hands stilled on a pillowcase. Through the wooden slats of the fence I could see him getting out, slamming the door. He looked terrible, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, eyes rimmed with red. Part of me, the mother part that had spent 34 years worrying about him, wanted to rush over and ask if he was eating enough, sleeping okay. But I stayed where I was. He found me in the backyard. "Mama," I turned slowly, a clothespin in my hand. "Derek, why didn't you call me back?" His voice cracked. "I left you 4 messages. I've been busy, I said, turning back to the laundry. Busy? Mama, the lottery office rejected the ticket. They said it's from 1997. It's expired, worthless. He laughed, but it was a broken sound. I don't understand. The numbers matched perfectly. How is it worthless? I pinned the pillowcase to the line and reached for another. Because lottery tickets expire, Derek. That was your father's ticket. He bought it the day before he died. I kept it as a keepsake. The silence behind me was heavy. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. You knew? I tried to tell you. You wouldn't listen. You let me believe. He stopped, and I could hear him breathing hard. I put a down payment on a truck, Mama. $5,000 I borrowed from Travis. I told everyone in town I was rich. I quit looking for work because I turned to face him then. You thought you'd never have to take responsibility for yourself again. His face flushed red. That's not fair. Isn't it? I set down the laundry basket. Derek, when was the last time you looked for a job? A real job, not just something you applied to so you could tell me you tried. I've been trying. You've been living in my house rent-free for 6 years. Eating my food, using my electricity. I worked myself to the bone to support you, and the moment you thought you had money, you threw me out like garbage. I was angry. I wasn't thinking straight. No, I said quietly. You were thinking very clearly. You've been thinking clearly for years, Derek. You knew exactly what you were doing. Every time you asked me for money, you never paid back. Every time you promised to get a job and didn't. Every time you let me carry your weight while you played poker with Travis and drank beer and complained about how unfair life was. Tears were streaming down his face now. I'm sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. I messed up. I know I messed up. But I need your help. Travis is threatening to take my truck if I don't pay him back. The dealership is coming for the new one because I can't make the first payment. I have nowhere to go. And there it was, the same pattern we've been following for years. Derek messes up, Derek apologises, Derek asks for help, and I give it because I'm his mother and that's what mothers do. Except this time something was different. This time I'd spent 3 days waking up in Melissa's guest room, making my own breakfast, working alongside her cleaning houses. My knees still hurt, but I felt lighter somehow, freer. I'd remembered what it felt like to be Margaret, not just Derek's mother, but a whole person with my own dignity. I can't help you, I said. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. What? I said, I can't help you, Derek. I don't have the money, and even if I did, I wouldn't give it to you. Not this time. But I'm your son. Yes, you are. And because I love you, I'm going to let you fix this yourself. How am I supposed to fix this? I owe Travis $5,000. Get a job, I said simply. A real one. Work it off. Learn what it means to be responsible for your own choices. His expression shifted from desperation to anger. This is because I kicked you out, isn't it? You're punishing me. No, Derek. I'm releasing you and I'm releasing myself. I picked up the laundry basket. For years, I've been so afraid of you failing that I never let you succeed. I never let you grow up. Your father tried to tell me, but I wouldn't listen. I thought I was showing love by always being there to catch you. But all I did was teach you that you didn't have to catch yourself. So that's it? You're just going to abandon me? The word hit me hard. Abandon. As if leaving him to face the consequences of his own actions was the same as not loving him. I'm not abandoning you, I said quietly. I'm choosing not to drown with you anymore. There's a difference. He stood there for a long moment, and I could see the war happening behind his eyes. Part of him wanted to rage, to blame me, to make this my fault, like he'd made everything my fault for years. But another part, a smaller, quieter part, seemed to recognise the truth in what I'd said. I don't know how to do this, he whispered finally. I know, but you'll figure it out. You're smarter than you think you are, Derek. You just never had to prove it before. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, looking suddenly very young. Can I call you sometimes? Yes, but I won't be giving you money and I won't be fixing your problems. He nodded slowly, then turned and walked back through the house. I heard his truck start, heard the engine fade as he drove away, and I stood there in Melissa's backyard, holding that laundry basket, crying quiet tears that felt different from the ones I'd cried before. These weren't tears of grief, they were tears of letting go. 6 months passed. Melissa and I fell into an easy rhythm. I worked with her 3 days a week, cleaning houses around Florence. The work was hard on my knees, but it felt honest. I was earning my own money, paying my own way. For the first time in decades, I wasn't defined by who I was taking care of. Derek called once a week, usually on Sunday evenings. The conversations were awkward at first. He'd tell me about the job he'd gotten at a warehouse loading trucks. Nothing glamorous but steady work. He'd found a small apartment on the south side of town, sharing it with 2 roommates. He sold his old truck to pay Travis back and was taking the bus to work. I didn't praise him excessively. I just listened and told him I was glad he was managing. Then one Sunday in October, he called and said, I've been going to a church nearby, not First Baptist, somewhere smaller. They have this men's group on Wednesday nights. It's helping. I closed my eyes, feeling something warm bloom in my chest. I'm glad, Derek. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about how I never had to catch myself. He paused. You were right, Mama. I was angry at you for a long time, but you were right. I wasn't perfect either, I said. I should have set boundaries years ago. I should have let you struggle when you needed to. Maybe, but I'm the one who chose to take advantage. That's on me. We talked for an hour that night. Really talked in a way we hadn't since he was a boy. He told me about the warehouse manager who'd taken an interest in mentoring him, about the roommate who was teaching him to cook, about small victories like making rent on time and saving $50 for the first time in his adult life. And I told him about the women I worked for through Melissa's business, about Mrs. Catherine Reynolds, who was 92 and still did crossword puzzles every morning, about how cleaning her house felt like an honour, listening to her stories about surviving the Depression. When we hung up, I sat in Melissa's living room, my living room now really, since she'd insisted I stop calling it her house, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The following spring, Derek showed up at the house on a Saturday morning. I was having coffee on the front porch when his car pulled up. Not a truck this time, but a modest sedan that looked clean and well maintained. He got out carrying a small potted plant. Hey, Mama. Derek. I smiled. What brings you by? I wanted to give you this. He handed me the plant, a small azalea with pink blooms, for Mother's Day. I know it's early, but I'm working a double shift next weekend. I took the plant, feeling tears prick my eyes. It's beautiful. Thank you. He sat down in the chair next to mine, and we sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Finally, he said, I've been saving money, not a lot, but some, and I was thinking, that house on Maple Street, it's still yours, right? Legally. Yes, I never signed it over to you. I know, and I was wrong to act like it was mine. He looked down at his hands. I can't afford to buy it from you or anything, but I was thinking maybe I could rent it, pay you monthly. It'd be more than I'm paying now for that apartment, but the house has a yard and I've been thinking about getting a dog. Something to take care of, you know, something that depends on me. I studied my son's face. The anger that had lived there for so long was gone. He looked tired, but in a good way, the way people look when they're working hard for something that matters. I think that's a fine idea, I said. We can work out a fair rent. And Mama, he met my eyes. I want to pay you back for all those years. I don't know how long it'll take, but I want to make it right. Derek, you don't have to. I do. Not because you're making me, but because it's right. You sacrificed for me when I didn't deserve it, and I want to honour that. I reached over and took his hand. Your father would be proud of you. His eyes filled with tears. You think so? I know so. We sat there on that porch, mother and son, watching the neighbourhood wake up around us. Somewhere down the street, children were playing. A mockingbird sang in the oak tree. The morning sun was warm on my face. Derek stayed for breakfast. I made scrambled eggs and toast, and we ate together at Melissa's kitchen table, talking about ordinary things, the weather, his job, my work, normal conversation between two people who were learning to be family again, but differently this time, better this time. After he left, I sat with my Bible and my coffee, reading the passage from Proverbs that had been on my mind lately. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. I'd always thought that meant I needed to keep teaching, keep guiding, keep protecting, but maybe it meant something else. Maybe it meant trusting that the seeds planted would grow in their own time, in their own way. I thought about that worthless lottery ticket, the one that had seemed like such a curse at the time, but maybe it was the best thing that could have happened to us. It had forced Derek to see who he'd become, and it had forced me to see who I'd been letting him be. We'd both been living off old dreams and false promises. Now we were building something real. A year later, Derek moved into the house on Maple Street. He painted the shutters, fixed the fence, and planted tomatoes in the backyard. He adopted a golden retriever from the shelter and named her Daisy. Every Sunday he drove to Melissa's house and picked me up for church. And afterward we'd have lunch together, sometimes at the diner where I used to work, sometimes at his house. He met a woman named Rachel at the church men's group. She volunteered with the youth ministry. I met her in August, and she was kind, with steady eyes and a quiet strength that reminded me of myself when I was younger. Derek brought her to Sunday lunch, and I watched the way he looked at her, the way he listened when she talked. He was learning. I never moved back to Maple Street. Melissa and I were happy in our little routine, running the cleaning business together, having coffee on the porch in the evenings, going to church on Sundays. She was more than a friend, she was the sister I'd needed all along. Sometimes people from the old neighbourhood would ask me about the lottery ticket, about what happened with Derek. I'd just smile and say, things worked out the way they needed to, and they had. Because here's what I learnt in those hard months after Derek kicked me out. Sometimes the greatest act of love isn't holding on, it's letting go. It's trusting that the people we love are strong enough to face their own consequences, learn their own lessons, become their own people. Derek didn't need a lottery win, he needed to fall, and I needed to let him. And now, sitting on my porch on a cool autumn evening, watching the sun set over Florence, I can say with certainty that we're both richer for it. Not in money, neither of us will ever have that, but in something better, something real. We're rich in second chances, in hard-won wisdom, in the kind of love that doesn't enable but empowers. And that, I've learned, is worth more than $38 million could ever be.